We crossed into Guatemala at the southern coast of Mexico, an area filled with mango trees and beautiful beaches. From the border, we headed to Lake Atitlan. Definitely one of the most beautiful places we have ever been. Doesn't matter where we go, I'm always a sucker for feeding the local dogs, and usually leaves me with a big audience. This area of Guatemala produces a lot of coffee. Most properties around the lake have coffee plants just growing wild. Ferret's bike was in much need of a new chain. We found a little shop in the next town over, and those guys were super helpful. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, you're always able to find helpful locals. You get from village to village by taking these small little taxi boats around the lake. This day the wind was very high and the water was very rough, but I rowed the front of the boat to try to get a better shot. It was definitely fun, but it was very rough and very wet. One of the waves threw me 5 feet in the air before coming crashing back down on my butt. Like I said, very wet.
That was a far enough distance. Awesome. My butt is soaked.
I know.
As long as it's okay, it's like mostly empty. You're good. I think it's on the inside. Well, you got wet too? See, I wasn't bad. I was in the wrong spot. I was on my black.
From across the lake, you get stunning views of the volcano.
It keeps going too.
It's definitely a tropical paradise that makes you want to swim in the lake every day. We stayed in the small town of San Juan, sandwiched between San Marcos and San Pedro, two very common backpacker and traveler destinations. During the day there was tourists walking around, but at night the streets became quiet and it was mostly just locals. While we were there, we got to visit Ferret's brother, which has been living there for some time, and recently purchased property right on the lake shore. It doesn't matter where you stay on the lake, everywhere is absolutely beautiful and very much worth the visit. I would stay there a lot longer if I could. After the lake, we head for the historic town of Antigua.
After spending a week relaxing on Lake Atitlan, we headed over to Antigua. Antigua is a popular tourist destination known for its Spanish architecture and large number of church ruins. In the central market, you can get lost in the endless alleys of market stalls. In Antigua, we found a great shop to get some work done on our bikes. The city also has many parks, plazas, and museums that you can visit.
It's also a place to find some really good food and some great beer. It's a great city to walk around and explore, although the cobblestones do hurt your feet.
The ruins were caused by the many earthquakes that plague this volcanically active region. From the city, you can see the volcanic activity from the continuous eruptions of the Fuego volcano nearby. From Guatemala, we headed down the coast to El Salvador, enjoying some beautiful roads to El Tunco Beach.
At the beach in El Salvador, we ended up staying at a hostel that was all for surfers. We were the only ones there not to surf, but it was still cool because we got to camp under a couple mango trees, eating fresh mangoes as they dropped to the ground.
El Tunco is recognized as a world-class surf spot. Currently, a lot of development is happening to create this area into El Salvador's Surf City.
Even though we weren't surfers, it was still nice to walk down to the beach and watch everybody catching waves.
After El Salvador, we stopped in the capital of Honduras to get PCR tests done and get ready for the Nicaraguan border, which we heard was quite difficult.
When we arrived at the border, it just so happened to be closed due to some kind of hazmat situation over on the Nicaraguan side. Just the start to the long process of trying to get through the Nicaraguan border. After the border finally opened, then we had to deal with all the bureaucracy and corrupt officials, even one that tried to blatantly steal my phone and think I wasn't going to say anything about it. After looking at an email confirmation on my phone, he then tried to walk away with it and then wouldn't give it back and told me to leave. It wasn't until I got a superior officer involved that I finally got it back.
From the Honduras border, we took back roads around Cerro Negro, a popular tourist destination where people can sled down the side of an active volcano.
The roads became very loose and sandy and very hard to ride on. The sand was so loose that we had to paddle walk our way through most of it, but still didn't stop us from falling down over and over again.
After struggling in the sand in 100-degree heat, we decided to forego that activity and spend a few days in Leon. Leon is a city known for its all-white cathedral and colonial buildings. Leon is also the hottest city in Central America, so we took shelter from the heat at a local water park.
The slides were definitely a bit rickety, but still very fun.
After Leon, we headed to Granada. Granada is the most popular city for backpackers since it's a good base to go on many tours and activities. Granada is also the oldest colonial city in Central America at 500 years old. A must while in Granada is a tour of the islands outside of the city. A group of 365 islands where you can see lots of wildlife and interesting homes.
This was our first time seeing monkeys in Central America, but definitely not our last, since we were just starting our journey into the jungle areas.
There aren't many places in the world where you can see lava coming out of the earth, but at the Masaya National Park you can. On an evening tour of the park, you can watch a beautiful sunset over multiple volcanic craters, as well as see the glow of hot magma in the Santiago volcano. After seeing molten lava in one volcanic crater, how about taking a swim in another? The Laguna de Apoyo is a lake inside a volcano. It is one of the cleanest and warmest lakes in Nicaragua, getting its warmth from volcanic activity. You can enjoy the waters with swimming, kayaking, or even free diving lessons. Before leaving Granada, we couldn't miss a chance to see the islands one more time, so we hopped on a booze cruise hosted by our hostel. It turned out to be a nice evening cruise with some swimming and a dance party to finish out the night. From Granada, we took the ferry to Ometepe Island. Ometepe is a large volcanic island made up of two volcanoes, Conception and Madeiras. After the quiet of Ometepe, we head down to our final stop in Nicaragua, the surf town and expat hotspot of San Juan del Sur. With lots of bars and restaurants, it is a popular destination for both backpackers and locals alike.
One of my favorite camp spots we ever had was right over the border into Costa Rica. We slept under trees filled with spider monkeys, howler monkeys, and even some three-toed sloths. The water was also beautiful, but not really a good place to swim since it also had crocodiles. Oh yeah, there was even some tree chickens. We spent a couple days in the mountains, getting a chance to do some world-class zip lining. Unfortunately, we forgot our cameras, and we didn't get anything on film.
Up in the cloud forest.
The Costa Rican landscape was such a change from the dry, arid land that we just came from in Nicaragua. Also, the Central American rainy season just caught up with us. Central America has so many cheap, beautiful Airbnbs and other places to rent. This one just happened to have some great dogs and some goat neighbors that we went to go see. As we headed south through Costa Rica, we got off the beaten path and farther away from most of the tourist destinations. A good chance to see the interior of Costa Rica and places that most other people don't. From Costa Rica, we hopped straight down to Panama City to get ready to ship our bikes down to South America and start the next leg of our journey. Panama City was quite a culture shock, since most of the cities that we traveled through weren't as developed and modern as Panama City.
The process of shipping the motorcycles from Panama to Colombia was quite easy and straightforward. We found a shipping company online called Air Cargo Pack, and all of our communication was done through WhatsApp. We chose to go with air freight because it seemed much easier and cheaper in the long run than waiting around for a cargo ship. We arrived in Panama City a few days before our flights just to relax and get ready for the next stage of our trip. With Air Cargo Pack, we only needed to arrange our shipping 2 days before, and they have flights leaving every Wednesday and Saturday.
There's plenty of naysayers out there that say flying over the Darien Gap doesn't count, and you should go through it. But if you've done any research, you know that's not really possible, especially right now during COVID times. That area has been completely closed off, except for the native people that live there and military personnel.
The day before the flight, we took the bikes to the shipping company warehouse for the first time. They gave us papers to take to the customs offices just down the road to get our temporary imports canceled. That really only took about 5-10 minutes. Back to the warehouse, we handed over our bikes to the agents, signed some paperwork, and paid for everything. Payment was only accepted in cash. The whole process took under an hour, and we didn't even have to drain our fuel or disconnect our battery. The next day, with the motorcycles out of our hands, we headed to the airport for our flights, since you don't fly with your bikes. We flew from Panama City to Bogota, a 2-hour flight that costed us around $75 each. We didn't have to pick up the bikes until the next day after the flight. Finding the shipping company office at the airport was fairly easy, and they handled all the paperwork for temporarily importing the bikes into Colombia. All we had to do was be there to sign some things and wait around all day for the very slow Colombian customs to process everything. We spent around 7 hours in the office, but once it was all done, they offloaded our motorcycles and we were free to go. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can keep following our adventures south.